back. It's the Good Contractor Podcast. This is episode number 5, and I have to bring up a stat for Luke. Did you know that 90% of podcasts don't make it past episode 3?
Click. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So what this means is we won. And I don't know if there's a medal or some sort of trophy, but yeah, we won. So
yeah, we have that 3D printed CompanyCam gold chain, and
great.
I'll let you wear it for a day.
Perfect.
Since we made it past 3 episodes.
Yeah. And then apparently another of those that are left of that group that, the 10% left of the 2 million or something that start podcasts. Those folks quit after 21 episodes, 20 to 21 episodes. So if we could just get there, we really win, and we can do whatever we want on this podcast. So we'll call it a success. Anyway, it is episode 5. I'm super excited. We have Caleb Auman from a couple of different things. I have actually talked to Caleb before. We were doing something for CompanyCam. We were talking about stuff, and it was just such a cool story of why he is wanting to help folks because of what he went through himself, whether it is starting a business, running a business, but that financial aspect of it, doing things right. And, obviously he's an expert in what he does as well. But I just thought it was super cool for him to want to help people and save them the struggle of what he went through. And so, but not only does Caleb and his wife, Brittany, have Auman Landscaping, but he is also the host of the Kid Contractor Podcast. So maybe he can give us podcast tips. I don't know. It's going to be super fun. But without further ado, I'm going to let in the man, the myth, the legend. It is Caleb Auman from the Kid Contractor Podcast. He and I have talked, and now he's going to talk to me and Luke together here on the Good Contractor Podcast. If I say podcast one more time, I get a demerit, and I'm no longer allowed to talk for the rest of the episode. Caleb, how are you, my friend? It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, fellas. How are you doing today?
Good. We're doing
Awesome.
Excellent.
How's my audio? Is that all right?
Audio's good, man. Yeah.
Cool.
Everything
It sounds a little sketchy to me. Or just
my
not
gosh.
as loud as it gets.
See, we're gonna-
sorry. He asked. I'm not. What do you want me to do, John? Say podcast 14 times?
As I can tell the room I walked into here now, we're gonna poke back a little bit. So
yeah. There's sharp knives.
The second straight episode that has already started, really tense, and all because of Luke. I've been the friendly one.
Let's start right,
well,
Caleb. No, I got a question. Caleb, would you say that Colorado is in the Midwest?
No, I wouldn't.
You're as dumb as the last guy. No, okay, I officially lost this argument. Yeah, the Midwest is big. To me, it stretches from Ohio to the Rocky Mountains. But apparently I'm the only one that thinks that. And it must not go that far.
If that's the case, yeah, I mean, Midwest is even bigger than, by some people's definition. And by the way, I've had a bunch of dental work done in the last 3 weeks. So I had a tooth removed. I have braces on. I'm learning how to talk again. I'm spitting everywhere. Like, bear with me here as I kind of navigate like being 14 years old again.
You are demonstrating perseverance. And so,
yes, you are.
Yeah, hey, no, we're good with it. I just figured you had like the hugest dip of all time, and you were just committed to it.
It's subconsciously trying to hide these stupid things because my teeth were ugly. They're bad enough before I was embarrassed of them. Now I've got these braces all over the place that, like, I don't know what to do. I'm lost.
Hold on a quick second. Caleb, these teeth that you see in front of you are not real. So I went through 2 years of dental work because I had the same issue. So if anybody can understand what you're going through, it's me. I had the same deal going on. Then I was self-conscious of like, they're being worked on and this doesn't look exactly right. So I get it. I've been through it, my friend. I've been through it.
No, but this is it's the intermediate stage. I talk about this with people because some people are they're afraid to go through the pain, the looking stupid, the sounding dumb. Like, if you're learning something new, but you just have to be able to like go through that period if you want to get to the other side. And I think of it as like learning a language, learning a trade, learning, for me, how to play the drums. Like, you're going to sound like an idiot. Like, you're going to be embarrassed by how you sound, and like, but the thing like you got to, if you want to be on the other side, you have to just make peace with it and then go through it. And I don't know. I think it's more and more popular, especially my brother-in-law's a dentist. And so he does that like high end. I mean, like I'm looking at John's face thinking, man, that's high end dental work. I didn't know we paid him that much to get beautiful teeth like that.
No, my previous job helped me pay for it. This one would never. I mean,
you'd get this one beautiful shiny tooth. Anyway, okay, but moving on. I want to talk about landscaping. I want to talk about landscape lighting because I'm in the mood, or not the mood. I'm in the process of building a house. I had a guy over there driving a skid loader, moving dirt around. I'm thinking about this stuff, and then we're always thinking about what makes a good contractor. And I have to say, I went to your website. And I can't remember why. Maybe it was because John had mentioned you before, so I went there, and then I went there again this morning, just kind of looking around for this. That thing is beautiful. Like, are you a designer? I mean, that's absolute top 1% contractor website, in my opinion. And I'm not joking. John knows this. I'm not handing out compliments about people's stuff, but that thing,
never.
I look at that and I think I will trust these people with my life, or at least with a fern and a rose and maybe some pavers. But like, how'd you come across this amazing website?
And so it's one of those things that's funny. And actually, to run back real quick, you talk about trying new things and looking stupid and all that. And my hero Jordan Peterson has been hammering on this thing. In order to become the master, you must first risk being the fool. Mm-hmm. And stuck with me for a long time. And it is one of those things I have, and maybe it's getting older and being more mature and all that too. But I have thrown trying to look cool out the window or trying to look like I'm the man in a situation and being like, I will ask all the dumb questions up front. And what I have found that prevents is the dumb stuff happening on the backside. And so all the stupid questions now, that keeps the stupid stuff from happening on the backside. And that is
I want to linger on this because I think you're I also am a Jordan Peterson fan, or I've learned a lot from Jordan Peterson, let's say. And that idea of being willing to look stupid, whether it's in learning something or it's almost like I think it's a subtle version of not lying, like pretending like you understand something when you don't, or you don't, that's the underlying thing. And I heard a story of a guy was telling the story. His dad, I think, was a very renowned like mathematician and like a very sharp guy. And the person telling the story was saying, like, my dad was just completely immune to any sort of scam or anything, not because he could see through it because he was so smart, but because he was just never, ever concerned about looking dumb. He would ask so many questions, the dumbest question, like, I don't get it. Can you explain it to me more? To the point that, you don't get caught in those things because you're trying to kind of go along or pretend. I don't know. I do think it's a version of a lie to act like you are with it or you understand or something like that when you don't. And I also, Luke Monologue Podcast. I also tell all of our product managers. A product manager at like a software company is someone who's kind of like deciding what features to build, and they're working with designers and then software engineers to build things. And I always tell them, you have to be the dumbest person in the room. You have to ask every question, like, tell me like I'm 5. Why can't we do this? Why can't we do that? I don't get it. Because it's not that you have to understand everything, but your ignorance will help everyone understand themselves, the whole problem. It'll help everyone understand better when you're asking all the questions that maybe other people are a little worried to ask. And it can also help pull people out of their own, because we all get locked in. Like, we get locked into kind of like an idea, a plan. And sometimes you just need someone asking you a lot of dumb questions about it for you to be able to kind of see the broader view and for everyone to get more on the same page. So, yeah, I'm a huge dumb questions fan. I ask a lot of those around here.
Boy, put that around, not saying you don't know, but at the same time, just kind of nodding along is a subtle, maybe a subtle lie. And it's an omission of truth for sure. So is that a lie immediately right up? That is a way to put a knife blade on that statement. Like, That is really interesting. I've never thought about that way, that like, nodding your head is lying essentially if you don't understand. That's so, I mean, it's one thing to nod, like if you're like, do you understand? And you nod your head, yes, you understand. That is definitely a lie. But just to act cool and play the part that you know what they're talking about that's because I'm big on that. Like I do not lie in my life. And like sometimes it requires you to say think the truth as tactfully as I can when I get asked about things, but it's like, I'm not going to BS you. I'll tell you, if you ask my opinion on something, I will tell you. And yeah. So a subtle lie, that's heavy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've thought about that a fair bit. I've been in plenty of those situations, and it's not, I don't know. I'm not trying to put a big negative spin on it. Like you need to grill everyone 24/7 all the time, but it's that idea of just kind of misrepresenting reality to other people. Let me ask you this. When did you make this sort of like very conscious decision about lying, and how has that manifested in your business?
I think it's probably partially, not that I'm some altruistic Mahatma Gandhian kind of individual or something. Because me to say I don't lie would be a lie in itself, right? So, to go there, I guess.
You try very hard, let's say.
Absolutely.
Or just the idea that like you have a commitment to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you look at it, and we know people that lie that we don't like. It's probably a personality trait too, right? To me, it's like trust is very important to me, and like my credibility is incredibly important. And it's funny, like on one hand, I don't care what people think about me, but on the other hand, I do care if someone thinks I'm honest and trustworthy, right? I definitely care about that. That weighs on me heavy. Like it's one thing if you think I'm a jerk, but if you think I'm dishonest, that bothers me to the core, right? And so, so I think what it is even in the past, even when I was younger, and maybe I would lie about something. I know, how that made me feel afterwards. And then also you get caught in that situation of having to perpetuate that thing. I'm not good at making stuff up. And I know, one of the things, another Petersonism, I'm definitely a Petersonite for sure, because I am a huge fan of his. But the more you do that and the more you begin to compromise yourself, it just keeps rolling downhill until you cut it off. And it just gets worse, right? You perpetuate a lie. And Robert Earl Keen, singer-songwriter from, Texas, the Midwest, you might call it there. I don't know. But, it says it's like doing anything you're ashamed of. When you do it once, you'll do it again. And I just never agreed with that. And again, my father was very straight-laced like that. And gave you the truth, probably to a borderline autistic level sometimes, of like no filter, and and so probably part of that is in there. But yeah, to say it's not easy to tell the truth all the times. And do I sugarcoat the truth maybe and try to present it in a little thing? And again, I'm not saying that I haven't told a lie in the last 6 months or something. I don't, but I really can't. I can't think of what that would be, frankly. Stretching the truth in some places, maybe depending on what my wife asks me or whatever. Sure. About
Yeah.
But like,
how?
Like, did you do this yesterday? Yes, and it's a yes or no to me, right?
Trust matters a lot to you. How does that?
Absolutely.
I mean, like when you think about that in your business with the customer, because we talk about that. Our motto is to equip good contractors to build trust. That's what we're trying to do here at CompanyCam. And we put the good contractor in there because like, if you're not trying to be good, if you're not, we can't make you, in a sense, trustworthy, but we can, in a sense, equip you, give you a tool that can facilitate that at your business. And so like, this is something that I think about it a lot. We talk about it a lot. How do you think about the importance of trust, both internally with your people at your business and then with the customer? I kind of want to hear you talk about it and think about it because it sounds like you have thought about it a lot. Yeah.
And to me, again, that comes down to, oh boy, Yeah, and to me that comes back to, again, people. I guess, gosh, about need a psychiatrist for this kind of thing. But really, if I'm open about it, is like I care that people know, think, or believe that they can trust what I say and what I'm going to do. And when I say we're going to raise wages or whatever, and guys, when we hit this certain benchmark in a company, we're paying production bonuses and all this kind of stuff. And for the guys that don't have faith in us that we're going to do that would be terrible. And so when we do say stuff like that, how critical it is that we do come through on that, because my trust would be destroyed, right? Or trust in me would be eroded, at best eroded, if not completely shattered. And I don't know. I guess that's just like my name, and this is just coincidental, of course, but my name is Caleb, and that means dog. And it doesn't mean I'm some low dog or worm. It actually it means reliable or honorable or trustworthy, and reliable like a dog, right? And so that's just kind of fate, I think, intervening there, but. It's incredibly important to me that if I'm setting my own goals and I want to get where I'm planning on going in life, and I need a good team around me to get there as well, I need them to trust in our vision. And when I say we're going to do something or when things are going to happen, I come through on it. Now, if things don't, if we don't hit a certain goal, we're also going to be very open that we're not achieving the goal and what that pivot is going to look like, right? But I think it ultimately comes down to something in my inner psyche is just terribly worried about people not trusting me. And I mean, there's a cutoff where it's just like, there's some old ladies from way back, I'm sure, in my old contracting business that think I was just trying to rip them off because they didn't understand our pricing, right? And so that doesn't bother me there. But at a personal level, like if you don't trust me with a password or a passcode or, with your paycheck, whatever, yeah, that just eats me alive. And, I don't know. I don't know what that really says about me ultimately, but it's just tremendously important to me. And I really then, because we know people that lie. We know people that are really bad about telling the truth, right? Or omitting. Omission drives me nuts too. That's almost more conscious, right? Omitting a fact, and that's banana. And so I know what that looks like from my perspective, and I do not want that to be what I look like, I guess. And that's where it really bugs me.
Yeah, I was going to let me go back to the beginning, because I think Luke was going to be fascinated by your story. And one of the things when you and I first talked, doing a separate interview with CompanyCam, we were just talking about your background and how you got started. And I thought what I really have always appreciated about you and your story is that you went through pitfalls, specifically financially, where you're like, if I can help somebody not go through this, it's super important. And to me, that screams good contractor. And one of the reasons why I was like, one of our first guests has to be Caleb, because this is exactly the kind of stories that we want to tell. Beyond just here's how to grow a business, here's how to do all these things well, here's how to be a great manager. But going through something is super powerful, because you're not just talking about it as if somebody told you the story. So can you kind of like share your background and what you went through and what spawned not just the way you run your business, but launching a podcast and trying to help others?
Yeah. The big, and this is where I will say I get altruistic or benevolent or whatever big word I want to try to use to sound intelligent. That I do is all the horrible decisions I've made in contracting over the years, and how poorly I ran a business in its first iteration. My brief background is I started a mowing business when I was 16 back in 1999, which sounds like forever ago now. And started that ran that okay for 4 or 5 years, then tried to turn into just what I refer to as Joe Big Time Contractor, right? And tried to have payroll employees and do all the withholding taxes and sales tax and trying to grow and be this big contractor, which we never really, in hindsight, even achieved. But long story short, started getting behind on taxes, payroll taxes, withholding taxes, just got myself into a god-awful mess. Always did good work, ran a bad company, right? Because, I know a million guys have done this, been there, done that. You work 12, 14 hours in the field. The last thing you feel like doing is going home and doing your paperwork, filing quarterly taxes, doing any of the actual business stuff, which is So important. And that's been my biggest charge, I think, over the last 6 to 8 months is the importance of delegating. I've been huge on delegating forever, but in my mind, that was, I need to delegate the field work to people and teams. But now we've really had this thing of how important it is to delegate the stuff you cannot do well, or you don't do well, or in some cases you don't do it all, which is your like profit and loss and cash flow projections and all that. So we're delegating and hiring out. We have a fractional CFO service now that does all this stuff for us. That is life-changing alone in its own right. We've had a budgeting and estimating software that we've used forever, for 7 years now. That was life-changing in its own right. To sing for my soup here or sing for my supper, we use CompanyCam for now, I think, a year and a half. And that's been huge with like my guys, because now this year, a huge leap forward for us is we're sending guys out on sales calls to meet with clients. And so when they're out, instead of all the photos being on their freaking phones and trying to figure out how to get them to one central place or whatever, they're utilizing that as I was so they could see it and vice versa. So what I'm getting at there is like through our podcast and our other social media stuff that we do, like, and when I went to bring this back around to like, I went bankrupt in 2009. It's not, I'd love to be able to blame that on like, oh, the economy was so bad, No, I ran a horrible company. We did good work. I ran a bad business because I was more focused on being a technician than I was a business person. And what I'm yelling at people now is you have to make a decision. Are you going to be just a service provider, which is fine, that's cool, or are you going to be a business person that's going to make money that your team can grow and flourish, that you can grow and flourish with you and your family, and have some money to rest on when you retire or whatever? Like, and my biggest charge is if you want that, you have to become a business person, and that then translates to you got to be good at your craft. That's super important, but more importantly, you have got to be a good business person. And it doesn't mean you have to know how to file taxes and do cash flow projections, all that. But you do need to have enough sense to know that you need to hire out those weaknesses and pursue your own strengths in the business, whatever that is. And that's been my big start, because I went bankrupt in 2009, which is like, who the hell would want to admit that or say that, right? That's still, every time I say it, it gets easier the more times I say it over the years. And I've been open with that for my whole social media career, I guess now. But it sucks saying that every time I say it, because there's obviously, and rightfully so much negative connotation with that. I don't want to say PTSD, but boy, it does not well up good emotion inside of me either. That was a rough time. That was really rough. That was no fun. And like, I don't ever want to go back to that. And I swore from there forth I wasn't going to. But if I can share that story and tell guys, hey, if you're starting to get behind on taxes or you're not keeping up on that stuff, here's why you have to hire out or get that done or figure something out, because you can't run from that stuff. They will find you. It might take them a few years like it did me. They found me. They come and got me. Like, it's serious stuff. And so, like, so that's like the pain point. If I can share that story and other guys, and I've had that feedback, which is the most wonderful payoff ever, right, is to get that, like, hey, dude, like, man, I'm exactly where you were. I haven't paid sales tax in 6 months. I'm getting all these nasty letters. Like, what do I do? Well, get in contact with them first. Don't run. Running only makes it worse. So make a phone call to somebody. Don't commit to anything at the moment, but just talk to someone. And by the way, this is non-legally binding professional advice. It's nothing. This is just what I did. Yeah. But it's just at least communicate for starters, right? And maybe that can get a pause on the interest and penalties and that kind of stuff. And because I ran for years, man, like, it's crazy. I say ran. I wasn't like running around the country or anything. Although I did run away in the wintertime to Oklahoma and nearly didn't come back 1 year, so I decided to stay there. But I wasn't running away from that. I was running away from my business, not running away from the tax man. But like, because you're not, again, they will catch you. They will freaking find you. What I'm saying is, ultimately, the reason I share all that stuff is so that if I can keep someone from making that mistake, that would be the most amazing payoff. And I get that from time to time, and it's awesome. And the reality is, everyone thinks they're alone in business. All business owners think they're the only ones that are having cash flow issues, or the only one that can be that stupid with not paying bills on time and instead buying equipment. Everybody thinks they're alone in that world, and the reality is most business owners are not. we're all, I mean, from pizza shop to software company, whatever, like we're all dealing with people issues, whatever. And now it's the Caleb monologue show too, Luke. But like,
that's what we're here for.
But everybody thinks they're alone. And so if I can share these things, wins and losses, by the way, because we have some stuff that goes awesome too, believe it or not.
Sure.
All I've done is talk about the bad stuff. Like, if we can share that stuff and help guys not feel alone and gals, like, awesome. What a win. And so that's kind of the overarching altruistic thing of why I started sharing so much stuff on media that we do.
Yeah, the Kid Contractor thing. I mean, even at CompanyCam, like, because I come from, my dad started a roofing company, I think the year I was born. And I grew up, I don't know, I was cleaning up job sites, and you graduate to like nailing down the shingles and going through all of that. But I saw the way that he operated that, which was like this integrity, responsibility, don't get too far ahead of yourself. And then when I started CompanyCam, I was, and I still am, like to this day, I was sending out Notion docs this morning about my opinions about the design of this app. But like moving from building a product to building a company, or just like in the trades space, it's, doing the work to building a business. And that if you're going to be responsible for a business, putting the right people and processes in place such that you are doing the things that are the highest value for you. And your fundamental leverage is people. It always is. But it is hard because it's easy to see people, especially when you're new, and the cash flow of a contract. I mean, it is hard. Are someone going to pay you? You're going to pay a supplier. You're managing these time bands when things have to happen. And bringing in a person to do something is like a cost. You see the cost of it, and you don't always see how much better it could be. Like it's a lot easier, I think, for all people to more clearly see what they're going to lose on like opportunities in a sense versus what they could gain. Because we just don't have that good of an imagination, and we don't know, like, almost necessarily. I still don't know how to do 99% of what our CFO does. You know what I mean? I don't know how to. I know that his number one job is to keep me out of federal prison, and if I end up in jail, that's on me. But I'm not. Your job is, these finances are legit and we're doing everything right, because I don't know how it all works. I've got some of the basics, but even knowing what a good fractional CFO can do for you, what a good accountant can do for you, you don't know that before you've almost experienced it, or someone like Kid Contractor has talked about it enough in a way that you can relate to and understand and be like, oh, that's actually a concrete way to get out of the problem that I have, versus just kind of knowing that I have a problem, but if I spend money on that, then X, Y, Z. I don't know. I think it's a good thing that you're helping people. You're helping people, see what can happen when you don't, which I think that's not a new story, but also just kind of concretely feel what could be different, without having to use 100% their own imagination.
When Caleb, you and I talked the first time, or any contractor that I've talked to, or when I was in a different business that was more software media based, or I was at CompanyCam or anything else, the number one thing I learned is the hardest thing is when you come up, especially through your own business or a startup, and you start small, is you're used to doing everything, right? You're wearing 95 hats. And so when I was in a startup before, it's like, okay, now you got to learn how to do this, and this, because we've only got 3 of you, or we've only got 6 of you. And then when you get bigger, the company, as it grows, it's like you have to learn a couple things. One is to step back and, like Luke was saying, and you were saying, hire people to do stuff that you're not an expert at. You cannot be possibly an expert of everything. It's just not, it's not feasible. The second part is to let go and not be in the weeds like you were when the company was, 2 people or 4 or whatever. And then I think the third aspect is the hardest thing is to delegate and let go of responsibility of not just the cost, as Luke was talking about, but I think the hardest thing is if I don't do it and oversee it and check it off and supervise this, quality's going to go down, or something's going to get amiss, or they're not going to manage that group the way I'd manage them. And then all of a sudden you've got, and so I think that is the constant struggle of people that it's different if you just already started a company or you've worked your whole life in a company of 6,000 people and you've never been at the small, at the 1, the 5, the 10, the 20, and you've never seen that, because that to me is the biggest change, is that, oh, you start to recognize I need somebody to manage these people differently than this person who's just been my right-hand person for all these years. Like, everything changes. The company may have the same name, but now that it's bigger, it is a completely different monster than it was when you were just starting out on your own. So anyway, I just wanted to bring up, I've seen that personally. I have friends that have seen it. I've seen it all over the place, where just that, watching the business grow, it's all these new problems, and half of the battle is just letting go and understanding that I may have to move some pieces around here. This is not the same thing that it was when it was me and 3 guys in a back office. Like, this is a different deal. So
to that effect, something that was brought to my attention by somebody very dear to me, and it was really kind of a kick in the shins or a kick in the groin moment in a good way. And I mean this, it was a real gut check. But it was a comment to your personal life, your professional life, your business is only going to grow to the capability and your understanding of yourself at that time, and your own leadership capability. And it was like, oh yeah, wow. So I feel like we're at a point in the company, or at that time we had topped out. We couldn't break through something. And it was this thing, looking back, it's like, well, yeah, duh. But it was me. I was holding things back. It was my own mentality, my own leadership flaws, and lack of a growth mindset. And it was just like, it's not the people around me or anything like that. It's me. I'm holding it back. And it's only because I haven't broadened my own horizons or enlightened myself enough beyond this. And again, a thing I've really been hammering on here lately is, don't expect things to change unless you change, right? And so a huge element of this was opening up my own mind to the idea of like more trust of my team, bigger goals, and I'm having a hard time articulating this, but I mean, really what it was is like I haven't grown myself and developed myself enough to go to the next level. That's why I'm still at a level here. And all these levels, and this dude's super high up in the business world and has done some amazing stuff. And he's like, yeah, and I'm kind of stuck here, and I'm working on enlightening myself past this. And I'm like, no, you're the guy that knows everything. You're like 20 stages up from me. He's like, it's all relative. Like, I can't go to the next level until I change my mindset on some things. And so, like, when you're stuck in that mindset of like, I can't, delegate this out to any of my team members because I have to do anything because quality is going to drop and all that, that's a personal problem you've got to work on. And so you've got to, and I say you, but this is me talking to myself, like I'm doing a tremendous amount of like personal development, right? And reading and trying to understand where I'm, and being self-aware of where I'm really weak and my own shortcomings and my own inadequacy or personal, mental inadequacy issues and stuff like that, and growing past that stuff, because that's what's holding me back from going where I want to go to the next level. And it was just a really like gut check moment of like, oh yeah, it's actually me holding me back. And I really thought I was open-minded. And the funny thing about that is when that stuff happened, and then I'm on my own podcast talking, or I'm on interviews with people, I never, after that moment, I had never felt like I knew less about business than I ever have. I felt like I felt like well, what the hell do I know now? Apparently I don't know anything. It was such a weird, and what my mentor is telling me, like, well, that's like a realization of a growth moment of realizing, and it's not that I thought I knew everything then. I just thought I knew what I needed to know even to still go to the next level, but I didn't. And
well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to compliment Luke here, because something that he said that has been, you better get this on tape because I don't compliment him very often, but he's got the hat backwards, the rally caps on. But one of the things that he said is that he brought up a good point, is that the further you go along in anything, You recognize, he said something like when you start off and you're in a business, and Caleb, you brought this up too. You're like, oh, the days of I'm the man, I know this. It's almost a mechanism. Like, I don't know a lot, but I feel like I'm in this position, so I've got to act as if. This, to quote the movie Boiler Room, I've got to act as if I'm the boss of this company. I've got to act as if I know what I'm doing. But the older you get, wisdom creeps in, and ironically, what it creeps in is, wow, I don't know a lot about really anything. I know a little about this, that, and the other. And Lucas said that, and I thought that is super important. It's that you cross over that barrier of going, I'm old enough to recognize that I don't know shit compared to what a lot of people know. You know what I mean? Like, there's that aspect of it. So
you got to kind of be at peace with how things are. Like, to be able to be at peace even when everything isn't good, even when it's not like the way you want it, and you acknowledge that it can be better, it needs to change, but that you're going to be at peace while working towards what's possible, towards the potential of what could be. Like, of course, we think we're capable of more at this company, but we're not going to be at each other's throats. We're not going to be kind of this frantic, oh no, kind of thing. We're going to work in such a way that we can work peacefully. We can just like, I don't know, maintain this sort of level of maturity while working toward what we think is possible. And I don't know how I ended up here from wherever I started, which I think was about the identity, the something. Sorry, John, you need to take over. Or maybe, Caleb, you got more to say. I feel like I'm going to lead us into the ditch.
Well, what I was... no, it's good thoughts. I was going to ask Caleb, since you started the podcast, what do you feel like has been the most rewarding for you? Is it seeing other people avoid the mistakes? Is it hearing from folks that are like, I just never thought I could do this? Like, what has that been like for you to see? I always think it's cool to see impact in, because you started thinking, well, I could have an impact and I'd like to, but you don't know what it looks like until it actually shows up on your front door. What's been the most rewarding for you since doing the podcast and beginning that?
Literally, like, ultimately it's that feedback of when, like, I was going down a bad road and I saw what happened, to you, or, how that went and how that went for you. And I don't want that to be my future. Right. And so anytime we get feedback like that, that's the most rewarding thing. Hands down, bar none, full stop, whatever. And then also we get these questions too of like, my wife owns our company. I'm under her. I'm an employee of the company, technically. Again, because I was such an idiot in my first company, my wife had to start a new company, and now I work for her, right? Which is fine, whatever. But we get people that follow us on social media stuff, all the husband and wife couples that are like, we're thinking we want to start a company together, and I'm thinking about quitting my full-time lineman job that makes $120 a year to start a lawn care business or whatever, and I want to do it with my wife and all that stuff. And it's like, whoa. And so for those reasons, when we're on the podcast, and there's episodes where Brittany and I literally get into arguments, borderline downright fights on the podcast about like directions we're taking the business. And the reason being is, and we air that, and that is weird. I mean, it's just pulling your skirt up and showing the world. And it's really weird to do that, but we get that question from couples so much. It is like scary, and it's like we never want this perception out there that running a company is easy, B, that running with your spouse is anything shy of homicide some days, and we want to make sure that like we show that dark side, because if you think just arguing about over who took the trash out is one thing, wait till you have a week where you're having trouble making payroll. And you're beginning to wonder if quitting out $120,000 a year lineman job was a good idea or not, because some jackass on a podcast said, yeah, do it,
Yeah. Well, it's so funny you bring this up. I was at AHR in Chicago, and we had a bunch of, HVAC professionals in the podcast pavilion, and two of them brought up their wives for the episode. And it was interesting. They were both at different levels of involvement in the business, but essentially it was a team effort. And one of the things that they hit on was, let's be real here. This is how, like, to do this, to operate as a household and a couple running a business, this has to happen and this has to happen. And they were in the same vein. I appreciated that. And I sat and listened to them for a while, that they were so real about this is, I don't want to sugarcoat this. This is how it is. So anyway, I thought that was interesting that you bring that up, what you and Brittany talk about, because I saw it there too. It was a look. There's some parts of this that you may expect and some you may not. And this is just the cold, hard reality of it. So, yeah, I appreciate that.
Relationships are hard, period. I mean, we can all imagine. Any relationships, marriage, people you work with, like, to sustain and maintain good relationships over a long period of time is just a hard thing. It's not like it in like, when you remove the distance, like because I go to work usually. I'm standing in my basement right now. Normally, I'm at the office, and I go, away from my family and my wife, and I do this day, and then I drive home, and I kind of like, I don't know that I need to decompress so much, but you kind of like get back into like the other kind of mindset, and you have this sort of break where you can keep things in a place. And I think that's what strikes me as being very difficult, is how do you keep things in a place versus everything spilling everywhere, like you don't have like sort of buckets. It's like you just poured it all together. And and I'm serious, like, because I can imagine
running a business. It's like working from home and saying, well, I feel like I can never leave the office because I'm always at home. The difference is like I can't get a break from my spouse because we are living and working together. That means aside from the time we're asleep, we are always involved. Yeah, it is spilling everywhere, no question. Yeah,
it is tough to compartmentalize it, and man, that takes some diligence some days to compartmentalize work. I mean, for a while we had a policy where we try like crazy to not talk about the company stuff after 6, but it is, as you know, so hard. Like, did you bill so-and-so? Hey, does so-and-so even know what they're doing tomorrow? Like that. And we get into just all openness. Like, her and I get into phases of life where it's like, I say phases, but like, thank God, brief periods, but it's like we're roommates and business partners. We work and we yell at each other all day at work, and we come home and still like we're in a period of growth and some big change. And like this year, because we've made some big changes in the company, we're turning our guys loose to sell jobs because I was holding them back. I'm holding the company back. They're bidding work. They're meeting with clients, stuff I didn't think they wanted to do. I didn't pursue if they wanted to. And I'm holding the company back from that. Wow, crazy. But that also comes with new layers of paperwork and how do we manage what they're talking about and all this kind of stuff. Fortunately, the CompanyCam thing is great for our photo documentation and our job notes, right? Again, singing for my supper here. But like, we got that going, but we've got other softwares and other, just all this learning curve. And so then we're disagreeing on how we do that. And so that, I mean, we literally have these spells where we literally call it roommate phase or spell because like, we're working and we're going to sleep at night, and there's no dating or anything in between because it's just we're disagreeing on stuff at work. We take it home, and so it's tough. And the reason I share that stuff is so like people that are thinking about doing this stuff, don't kid yourself. I'm not going to kid you. Like, it's tough. It's also, by the way, awesome. So I want to put the good with the bad. The good outweighs the bad. But what I say about this is like, on days when it's good, it's okay, and on days when it's bad, it's effing terrible. And
let me flip it before our last question. But like, what is the good? Because you said it's awesome, and I think people probably hear. I know you want to make sure to warn them correctly. So you're going to say, look, this is how it could go down a bad road. But what is awesome about being able to work with your wife and what you guys have built? Because it is really cool. Not just a cool website. I know Luke loves the Auman Landscaping website. But beyond that, what has been awesome about being able to work with your spouse and build this business?
Well, to that effect, things that are awesome is that perspective, right? In my case, the female perspective is incredibly valuable, right? So to the website, we talked about that earlier, and I didn't get a chance. We redid the website last year, invested a chunk of money in that we should have done. I thought our website looked pretty good already. Why did we do this? But as we grow and mature, we realize like there are hills we were willing to die on and others were not when we come to disagreements in a business. That was one I was not willing to die on. And so I said, if that's what you think we need, then let's do it. And so we redo the website. It looks awesome. And in hindsight, and I admit this to her, is good call. I didn't realize how bad our old site actually was. And so wins like that are awesome. Because I'm huge on, like I said, I'd like to consider I've always been very open-minded and whatever, but we're doing these new growth mindset things. And so we're hiring coaches and mentors, which are, by the way, a coach or a mentor is a cheat code to life. I learned fly fishing. I say I learned it easy, but I tried fly fishing in Montana last summer at the behest of my wife. I don't like fishing. Turns out I love fly fishing. But we hired a guide that day, and he gave us a pretty good crash course in the mechanics of it. That probably lurched me ahead 3 years, right? And for $400, I learned 3 years worth of information. I got a lot to grow from that. In the marriage thing, we have a marriage coach. We literally pay someone, not a counselor yet, thank God, but we have a coach. And it's the same thing. Like, what can they see through questions they ask us that we need to work on together? So part of that is like we learn what hills we're willing to die on for the company in fights that we believe in for something, right? And so things like that are awesome. So when we're arguing and disagreeing on something, we remind each other, hey, we're both going in the same direction. We both have the same goal and the same desired outcome for the company and the business and the family and all that. We're disagreeing on exactly a minutia of how we get there right now, right? So that helps easy that up. So with that all being said, what we have done, we have grown together and matured together deeply through this experience, right? It's forced us to. That's our experience. Our time is very flexible together now, right? So when we're done here, I'm taking my son to preschool. We're a little late, but that's okay. I planned that. That's all right. That's life by design. We spent a couple weeks in Florida this winter. We could do that together because we run the company together. We worked more in Florida. That's cool. We went to Montana and snowmobiled this winter too. So our time, while we bust tail all year long, and even while we're traveling, our time and ability to stay together and spend time together and be oriented on the same goal, and it's all on us for everything. Retirement, how the kids turn out, how we develop, that's all on us together, and that's a really cool thing. We're not looking for someone else to provide that. So that is a huge win when we're doing it together as a couple. I don't think it's for everyone, and some days I wonder about ourselves as well. But ultimately, we know we're both going the same direction, and we both have the same objective together. And that's the awesomest thing about working with your spouse.
That's really cool. That is really cool. Well, we always finish up with this question, and then Luke gets to vote on whether or not you should be a contractor. And no one takes it seriously, but he likes to do that. So, all right, we just let him. I mean, he's the CEO.
Oh,
I don't want to get fired, Caleb. That's really what this comes down to. So
self-preservation.
There's nothing I can do about it. In your mind, when you hear the term good contractor, what makes up a good contractor according to you? What are those characteristics? How would you describe a good contractor?
The surface level end of it is doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, or doing what you say you're going to do and doing that, carrying through it. That's a good contractor. If you say you're going to be there next week. If you're not, call and let them know when you will be there. I think business, more or less, business is so funny, right? It's so easy at a surface level of you do those things. You do what you said you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. That's a pretty easy win. You charge more than you have costs. That seems pretty easy, right? So on a surface level, all that stuff's really easy. Deeper than that, it's incredibly challenging, right? But what makes a good contractor? I think it's that thing, and then constantly being in makes a good business person, really, because that even kind of separates that a little bit. It's constantly working on self-improvement.
Yeah.
Just constantly working on being better in every 360 degrees in every way possible, always working on being better. And it doesn't mean you've got to learn all the best techniques of how to lay a 3-tab or whatever, but you need to understand, in my opinion, you need to understand, I need to hire the people that's all they think about, or the best coders, and that's all they think about, or the best podcast hosts, and that's all he thinks about is how to make his show better. Or my guys are like, they're out selling jobs. How can I be more effective and persuasive to my clients to solve their problems that help us achieve our goals as well? And that's what a good contractor is to me. Somebody that's constantly looking at tomorrow.
Well, Luke, do we have a good contractor on our hands? And Caleb?
Oh, man, a great one. A great contractor with a great website with great values. Caleb, it was great talking to you.
It's a blast. Luke, what are you drinking? You've been you talk about guzzling the Kool-Aid.
I'm drinking coffee. Look, we're drinking protein. We're drinking coffee. Everything but carbs, baby. No sugar, no carbs.
I'm going to go get some ice cream, so it'll be great. Yeah.
John will offset me. All right. Hey, see you, Caleb. That was great, man.
Enjoyed it, man. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.